Hi guys, this is Miss Best. This video is on completing the square. So completing the square is another method that we use for solving quadratic equations. First, we're just going to go over the main part of completing the square, which is a process that allows you to write an expression of the form x squared plus bx as a binomial squared. So our first example, we have x squared plus 2x equals c. So the x squared plus bx is this part, x squared plus 2x, and we're going to complete the square so that we can add in a number, and that allows us to write it as a binomial square. So the process of completing the square is you take your b value, which in our case is 2, and you divide it by 2, and then you square it. So we have 2 divided by 2 squared. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. Okay. And if you're wondering like where does b come from and all that, that comes from our standard form equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. So the number in front of x squared is always your a, the number in front of x is always your b, and your constant term is your c. So what you're doing with completing the square is you're finding that c term so that then you can write your equation, you can write it as a binomial square. So the binomial square part comes in here where we have x plus b over 2. Your binomial squared is always going to be x plus b over 2 squared. So our b over 2 was 1 because we had 2 over 2. 2 over 2 is 1. So our binomial squared is x plus 1 squared. This can be further explained by using algebra tiles. So I'm going to show you guys a few examples like this because sometimes seeing it with a model makes it a little bit more clear what we're doing. So let's say this is our x squared term. I'm trying to make these bigger. Okay. This is our x squared term. This is our x term. And so since we had x squared plus 2x, we're going to need 2 of those x bars. Okay. So, all right. So here's my x squared, and then I have 2 x bars. So this represents x squared plus 2x. Now I need another piece here to complete the square. You see here I have almost a square, but I have this little chunk missing. So which one of these pieces can I put in to complete the square? Well, this one unit box would complete the square. So that's 1, just like we added in 1 here, that completes the square. Okay. And then the binomial square part, you can just use this, the x plus b over 2, or you can see it here in the diagram as well. The binomial square part comes from the dimensions of the tiles. So this part right here would be x, and this would be 1. So that's x plus 1 squared. Here, I'll show you guys another one. Okay. Let's say we had x squared plus 4x. So I need 4 of these x bars. Okay. All right. So I have x squared plus 4x right here, and I have this chunk missing. I need to fill it in with these unit tiles. Okay. So how many does it take to fill in? It takes 4 unit tiles. Okay. So the number that would complete the square would be 4. And if you think back to what our b was 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So this also represents b over 2 squared. I can try and link another video where someone goes through using algebra tiles, if you guys would like to see that, I'll just link it anyway, if that helps make it more clear for you what completing the square actually is. All right, so back to our other examples. Let's say we have we have x squared minus 7x plus c, and we want to complete the square. So sometimes your b is an odd number and you won't be able to divide it evenly. It's okay. It just saves that number over 2, okay? So our b was -7. So we have -7 over 2, and we square it in order to complete the square. When you're squaring these, especially in your calculator, you want to make sure that you use parentheses, because if you don't, your calculator is not going to square the negative number. It's just going to square 7 and place the negative in front. So always, always, always make sure you are using parentheses in your calculator. So -7 over 2 squared is 49 over 4. We add that number in to complete the square, and then that allows us to write it as a binomial squared, which is x minus 7 over 2 squared. Okay. I think I have one more example. Okay. Well, you try, but you guys see the answer already. So, you can walk through this. We have A is 1, B is 18, and we're going to complete the square. So we take 18 divided by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9, and 9 squared is 81. So we add in 81, and that allows us to write it as a binomial squared. The binomial squared is always going to be b over 2. Okay, we had 18 over 2, which is simplified to 9. So our binomial is x plus 9 squared. And if you'd like some further information about where that comes from, the x plus 9 squared, it comes from factoring, like you guys learned last week. What are two numbers that multiply to be 81 and add to be 18? 9 times 9 makes 81, and 9 plus 9 makes 18. So you can write that as x plus 9, times x plus 9, okay, which is the same thing as x plus 9, x plus 9 squared. Okay, so that is where this comes from. We just use x plus b over 2 as a shortcut. So instead of factoring, you can just take x plus b over 2, and that will always get you the right answer. All right, now here is another you try, okay? At the bottom of the screen, it says x squared minus 11x plus c. I want you guys to pause the video and try to complete the square there. Okay, so your b is -11. So you're going to take -11 divided by 2 and square it. So that is 121 over 4. You add that into both sides, and then you can write it as a binomial square. So your b over 2 is -11 over 2. So your binomial squared is x minus 11 over 2 squared. All right. Thank you guys. And again, if you have any questions, ask me on Wednesday, or you can email me those questions as well. You can ask Ms. Wiles or Ms. Elliott as well. All right. Bye-bye.